Hey there, and welcome to my channel, The Paperback Investor. Today's video, I want to look at why legacy companies fail, especially legacy auto companies that are trying to copy Tesla, and also legacy insurance companies that are trying to copy LMND Insurance. Why do these legacy companies fail? I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on that. So let's get into it. But before I go any further, I just want to make it absolutely clear, not a personal financial advisor, just a guy with a paper bag on his head who loves investing and thinking about the future. If you love investing, you love thinking about the future as well, I encourage you, hit that subscribe button down below, follow along with my channel as it grows, and become a better investor with me. Okay, why legacy companies fail? Why legacy companies fail? And I'm talking about your Toyotas, Fords, Volkswagens, GMs, Mercedes-Benz, BMW. Why do these companies fail when they're trying to imitate a company like Tesla and trying to branch into something new like electric vehicles? And then we're also going to be taking a look, a few examples as well as LMND Insurance versus all the legacy insurance companies that are still out there. And to be clear, I'm talking about when legacy companies must venture into a new industry or way of doing business. Obviously, if a car company makes a new model of car or makes a minivan, they never made a minivan before, but they made all other kinds of ICE vehicles, that's a different story. But I'm talking about a new way of doing business, and they're trying to copy or follow a new innovative startup company like Tesla, like LMND. So why should legacy companies succeed? What's the argument for the reason for success? So people always say, oh, all these legacy companies are going to come in and just clobber Tesla with their EV sales. And people say they should because they have large amounts of capital and assets and people. They have all these human resources, all this different factories and equipment, all kinds of money that they have available, and they have all kinds of experience. So they have all this capital, assets, and people, and they have all this experience. That makes sense that they say, well, these companies, these Fords, these GMs, these Toyotas should be able to make electric vehicles as compelling as Tesla or even much better than Tesla can do it. Or for the case with the LMND, people say these legacy insurance companies should be able to make a digital software and chatbot and online digital structure that's easily as good as LMND's. But, of course, this doesn't really happen. In reality, this doesn't happen. If you go to in 2018, and to some level now still, there was a strong narrative that legacy competition would destroy Tesla and their sales growth would plateau. Of course, that hasn't happened since 2018. Their sales and deliveries have continued to soar on an exponential path. Why do the legacy companies fail? So why didn't it, right? So there's two reasons I want to propose and kind of go into more detail. The first one is, and the main reason I think, is conflicting internal interests. Conflicting internal interests. I'm going to go into more detail on what I mean by this in a moment. And then also they lack what I call the first mover advantage. So conflicting internal interests, what do I mean by that? When you're entering a new arena, example, electric vehicles versus internal combustion engine vehicles, the core competencies and understandings of many people at the legacy company are different than what is required. I'll give you an example. An internal combustion engine engineer at a company like General Motors who works his way up to the executive level of a legacy auto company. This guy, imagine somebody who's an engineer and they work for decades at a company like this. They grow to the executive decision maker level, and their whole background, decades of experience, they know all kinds of vendors and suppliers. They make all kinds of different components, key manufacturers, and key people of knowledge around manufacturing to make the specific componentry that goes together to make their traditional gas vehicles. They have all that background, and that's really the assets that they have and they've collected, and they become the decision makers of these companies. A person like that knows very little about a new industry like electric vehicles, where what's more important is maybe knowing the the battery chemistry that's most important, the battery chemistry research that's most important and happening right now and that's maybe feasible for the future, the mining companies that they need to have great relationships with to secure the minerals they need at the right prices they need. The manufacturing process that go into creating batteries and not ICE vehicles and their engines. These are very, very different skill sets that these decision makers of these companies really don't have. So there's this, what I call this conflicting internal interest, is because the reality is these executives, especially these executive decision makers of these legacy companies, especially in the auto industry like this, if they want to seriously transition to electric vehicles, they should fire themselves. They should say, I'm not the person for the job. My experience and assets and time is not very valuable, and I should be fired, and hire a decision maker in my place that is an expert at battery technology, software and software integration, and is an expert at full self-driving technology. That's the kind of person they should be in their place. But of course, that's not going to happen. These executives, they're going to hold on to their own personal position of authority and power and good salary and benefits and stock options and everything they have. And they're going to hold on to that as long as they possibly can. As long with everyone else in the company who maybe has a skill set that's related to the ICE side, they're not going to want to give that up. Or another example is if you consider Lemonade Insurance, their extremely efficient digital structure they've built, which allows them to handle about 2,500 policies per staff member, a number that will likely also continue to increase over time, versus the industry average of about 900 policies per staff member is by a traditional insurance company. And when you include brokers in that equation as well, this number is actually lower, more like 400 or 500 policies per staff member. But if legacy insurance companies built a digital structure as efficient as Lemonade's, many staff members would need to be laid off. It's maybe 3 times as efficient, maybe even more with the brokers, 4 or 5 times more efficient, maybe even 6 times more efficient. So many staff members would need to be laid off in that kind of scenario. So they're not motivated to do that. They actually have this very conflicted internal interests right in amongst themselves and their own staff. They're not going to do it. They're not going to actually change. The second point I want to make is that these companies lack the first mover advantage. So that was the first one. I think the most important was that conflicting internal interests, but also these companies lack the first mover advantage. With many products or services that are in a new field, such as electric vehicles, the customer wants to know that the company they are buying from has crossed what I call the hurdle of confidence, and that will still be around in 5 to 10 years' time when their car needs maintenance and or they want it to have good resale value. So especially a larger purchase like a vehicle, people want to know they're buying a car for $50,000. They want to know that in 5 years, 10 years from now, that car's still going to have really good resale value. And they want to know that 5 years, 10 years from now, if it needs maintenance, they can get maintenance for that car. If it needs special parts, they can get parts ordered for that car. If the company that's making the car is no longer around in 5 to 10 years, that's going to be really challenging for them to do. And early adopters of a new industry overlook this hurdle in a new industry. That's why whoever moves first has the best advantage of overcoming this. That's why when Tesla came out with their first electric cars, it was this rare, super niche thing. And even though it was maybe very risky for people to say, wow, I'm going to buy an electric car for $100,000 plus, that people are still going to overlook that fact. A certain small niche of early adopters are going to say, well, worst case scenario, this company goes out of business, but that's no problem for me. But following companies no longer have the early adopters. Those people have already bought in, have already bought the products. They must convince mainstream consumers that they will be around in years to come, and that product support for their products are still going to be around in years to come. So, for example, think about it carefully. If you were going to buy an electric vehicle right now, are you going to buy a Tesla, which you know in 5-10 years, their Tesla will definitely be around? And they're definitely going to have maintenance for you. There's definitely going to be a resale value for that vehicle. But if you buy a Ford electric vehicle, for example, how do you know in 5 to 10 years that Ford, whether or not Ford's around, that's one question. but whether or not even Ford's electric vehicle department is around and going to care about you as a customer. And if they don't care about you as a customer, they don't make replacement parts, they don't service your vehicle well enough in 10 years time, how are you going to know that you also know that your resale value of your vehicle is going to be very poor, because the next buyer is also going to know they don't have that support from the manufacturer. So if you're not that first mover that moves first and crosses that hurdle of confidence, before that hurdle of confidence you have the early adopters, and then after that you jump that hurdle, then people know, mainstream consumers know, yes, we can buy your product. I'm all in. If I'm shopping for an electric vehicle, I better get a Tesla, because I know with total confidence it's going to be here for years to come. Those are some of my thoughts on why legacy companies fail, why people get it wrong when they say over and over, oh, the competition's coming for Tesla. All these big auto companies are just going to crush them with their EV sales. I shake my head at those people, because to me, that's not very clear thinking, I don't think. And also, people may say the same argument against Lemonade when they're talking about traditional insurance. I'm hearing that a lot, where people say, oh, it's just a chat bot. They just make anyone can sell insurance online. Sure, anyone can sell insurance online. Anyone can make a chat bot, but it's very difficult to make a very streamlined, super efficient digital structure that Lemonade has built. That's really, everything about it is intended to delight the end customer. That's a very, very difficult thing to make. If these big companies really tried to even do that, they would mean pretty large layoffs for the company. And also, the leadership of those companies are not experts in those fields of software development, software integration, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. So they really should fire themselves if they want to implement that and become that efficient. But I don't think they will. Anyways, my thoughts. Love to hear yours in the comments down below. Let me know what you thought of this video, and I read all your comments, so I really appreciate your feedback. If you got value out of this video, please hit that subscribe button down below. Also, hit the thumbs up, and helps the YouTube algorithm. See you next time.